only at NewportAquarium.com.
This is RTV6 News at 6, working for you.
Now at 6, tracking potential storms in central Indiana. A viewer in Spencer, Indiana, caught these angry-looking clouds earlier today. But will the weather be kinder for the rest of the evening? Good evening, and thanks for joining us here at 6 o'clock. I'm Nicole Griffin in the Tracking Center with meteorologist Kyle Mounds. Kyle, we woke up to some very dreary weather today.
Yeah.
But I just walked by the newsroom window, and it's sunny out.
Seeing some sunshine. Yeah, recovered pretty nice this afternoon after having a few of those storms late morning into this afternoon. And you did see some of those clouds there, some pretty ominous looking shelf clouds, the leading edge of some of those thunderstorms earlier. But as we check out the satellite and radar right now, you can see things are quiet, and actually some of those pockets of sunshine that Nicole was talking about. Looking at a little bigger perspective here, we are going to keep an eye off to the west. Still can't rule out an additional pop-up shower or storm. That would be very isolated, but we still have that marginal risk covering all of central Indiana that any of those storms that do flare up later on this evening could have some gusty winds and possibly some hail in them. But there's a look at some of that sunshine over downtown right now. It's 82 in Indy, 82 for you in Martinsville, and 84 degrees right now in Bloomington. So over the next few hours, just keep an eye to the sky for that spotty thunderstorm. Otherwise, several clouds out there, mix of clouds and sunshine before that sun sets here a little closer to 9 o'clock, where our temperatures will be in the upper 70s.
Kyle, thank you. A property on the Far East Side that has been considered an eyesore for years and a hotbed for violent crime is finally coming down. The project is just the first in many steps the city is taking to address conditions in this area. RTV6's Graham Hunter is reporting from 42nd and Post tonight with this developing story.
The demolition has started just down the road here at the Town and Terrace Apartments. It's causing mixed emotions for folks who live here in the community. This video was provided by the city that shows the beginning phase of the demolition of an apartment complex that has had its share of high-profile crime and murders. At one point, there were over 400 police runs within a half-mile of the complex in just a 6-month period of time. The demolition is happening in an area city officials are calling the North Post Road redevelopment area. It comes after a court battle with the owners of the property that started back in 2013. We talked to some community members off camera who say they're happy to see those apartments being taken down, saying they've been a haven for crime for years, while other folks expressed concern for the many people still living in the community. It's still unknown what the city is planning to do with the properties once the demolition is complete. We'll keep pressing city officials for those answers. We're reporting from the east side, Graham Hunter, RTV6.
Graham, thank you. Metro Police say they are still interviewing witnesses and the 2 officers who fatally shot a man last month. The department released an update today confirming that members of IMPD's Flex team believed they spotted a drug deal before Deshaun Downing allegedly pointed a gun at them. Downing was a passenger in the car they pulled over in the 8500 block of East 42nd Street on August 2nd. They say they fired only after Downing pointed a gun at them. Downing died at the hospital. The officers will stay on administrative leave while this incident remains under investigation. The final victim of that deadly Walmart shooting rampage 2 weeks ago has been laid to rest. Thousands of members of the community coming out to pay their respects to Margie Record after her husband invited the community to attend. Here's ABC's Marcy Gonzalez with the story.
A showing of the best of humanity in response to the worst.
I love you always.
For the second day in a row, hundreds of strangers showing up to pay their respects to one of the victims killed 2 weeks ago inside this El Paso Walmart. Margie Record, the last of the 22 victims to be laid to rest. Her husband of 22 years, Antonio Basco, thought no one would come.
She's loved my life.
But after word spread that the couple had no family nearby and that Basco was opening the doors to anyone who wanted to attend Friday's memorial service, the response was overwhelming. Flowers from across the country started arriving, and the guest list grew so quickly the service had to be moved to a larger venue.
It's a feeling that's out of this world. I mean, you can't explain it. That ain't just El Paso, it's all over the world.
In the end, some family did make it to today's funeral.
We really appreciate all the support, all the love we've been getting from the El Paso community.
But it was the love of strangers.
We didn't know Margie, but I had to tell my family we have to be there as a family, all of us.
These messages of support
Oh, thank you.
that brought light to this grieving widower on one of his darkest days. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Marcy, thank you. An Indiana National Guard staff sergeant from Greenwood has died in a tactical vehicle accident at Fort Hood, Texas. Staff Sergeant Andrew Michael St. John was an embedded observer, controller, and trainer with Army National Guard Operations Group Wolf. St. John was an infantryman with Company B, 1st Battalion, 151st Infantry Regiment. He had previously been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan and received several awards and medals. The cause of death remains under investigation. Today is National Clear the Shelter Day. It's a day dozens of shelters across the state took part in, focusing on clearing the shelters and finding animals a good home. Dozens of families came out to the Hamilton County Humane Society today to adopt a pet. At last check, 50 adoptions were completed today at just this location. The shelter does not just serve animals in Hamilton County, but they also save over 200 animals a year from shelters all over the state that are slated for euthanasia. When the shelter is full, they are not able to provide those animals with a second chance, and that is why days like today are so important. This event has wrapped up, but tomorrow you can still adopt an animal at Indianapolis Animal Care Services. They are open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and adoptions will be free at their location. Before the busy NFL season officially gets underway, former Colts head coach and current sports analyst Tony Dungy is in town today. Tony and his wife Lauren unveiled their third book of their series from Team Dungy children's books. This one is called Carson Chooses Forgiveness. It's a story about a young basketball player who is having a hard time with a teammate who isn't very nice and is hogging the ball. Instead of retaliating against that player, Carson decides to forgive him and work together with him as a teammate.
Believe it or not, we ask the kids a lot when we read in the schools, hey, we're thinking of writing another series of books. What should we write about? And they're very, oh, you should write about bullying. You should write about being fair. You should write about treating people well. And that's when the light bulb will go off.
Every day we see opportunities to really speak encouragement in life into our kids. And so using our platform, we're doing the same with writing.
The Dungies hope their books make a difference in the lives of young readers. They want them to learn lessons about character, integrity, and sportsmanship. A city on high alert after suspicious devices were left in a highly public place. Now a major break, a suspect in custody. The very latest coming up. Kyle.
We've only made it to the 90-degree mark one time this month on August 8th, at least so far. It does look like that 90-degree heat is going to make a return. I'll let you know when. You're watching RTV6 News at 6.
This is RTV6 News at 6, working for you.
The 26-year-old West Virginia native considered a person of interest in the case of suspicious devices left in subway stations is now in police custody. Here's ABC's Zachary Quiche with the details.
The person of interest in the case of rice cookers abandoned in a New York City subway station is in custody. Sources say police found 26-year-old Larry Griffin early Saturday morning in the Bronx after responding to a 911 call about a possible drug overdose. Cell phone video appears to show Griffin in a wheelchair as emergency responders transported him to an area hospital. During the Friday morning rush hour, a subway passenger noticed two suspicious items and alerted police, setting off a bomb scare. A third device then found in another area of New York City. The bomb squad responding to both locations, determining the items were rice cookers.
I don't know what the deliberate act is, whether it was to create fear and alarm on the part of the public, or whether he was discarding items that he was no longer interested in.
Police then releasing this surveillance image of Griffin Friday afternoon. Sources telling ABC News Griffin had been in contact with his family, reportedly telling them he found 3 rice cookers outside of a restaurant. The Logan County Sheriff's Office in West Virginia assisting in the investigation, releasing a statement saying in part that Griffin had been arrested in Logan County at least 3 times over the last 8 years, and an active warrant was out for his arrest for failing to report for drug screens as part of his pretrial bond supervision. In 2016, a pressure cooker outfitted with explosives injured nearly 36 people in the Chelsea neighborhood of New York City. That attacker, Ahmad Khan Rami, was later caught and convicted. Zachary Keish, ABC News, New York.
Working for you, RTV6 continues to push for answers on issues that matter to you. We're keeping track of problems addressed thanks to your concerns. An apartment complex on the northeast side is being sued by the health department for not cleaning up its act. A former resident reached out to RTV6. She says management never fixed problems, including mold and infestations. The health department gave New Parkwoods Apartments until Thursday to fix several violations. They missed that deadline, and now we're waiting to learn when the case will be heard in court. Indy Parks told RTV6 an issue at Paul Ruster Dog Park on the east side would be fixed by Friday, and sure enough, a magnetic lock on the park's gate is now working again. Paying members of the park told us the lock was malfunctioning for months. In the Castleton Farms neighborhood, the weather cooperated and the Department of Public Works was able to clean up a fish kill caused by a dredging project. Residents had to deal for days with the strong smell from all the dead fish. DPW emptied the water from this pond to work on an ongoing drainage problem. That is what led to that fish kill. We went out there Friday and the water and the smell has cleared out. A lightning strike earlier today caused a small fire at a home in Plainfield. The fire at a home on Dahlia Drive was extinguished in about 15 minutes, and luckily no one was hurt. And Kyle, you were telling me before we came on air, we still do have some chance of some storms, isolated storms.
Yeah, it's pretty isolated, not as widespread as what we had this morning and into the early afternoon. And some of those storms did have a decent amount of lightning with them. Right now, we've got some breezy conditions out there. You can see Old Glory flapping in the wind. We got that south breeze around 10 miles per hour. Now that the sun has come out, our temperature's starting to take off a little bit. We've recovered into the lower 80s, and that humidity is coming back as well. Our humidity at 62% with that dew point close to 70. Once we get there, we're talking about that tropical feel, and it is giving us a little bit of a heat index out there this evening. 89 is what it feels like for you in Bloomington, feels like 83 in Lafayette, and it feels like 86 right now in Columbus. This is just the start of things. It's going to feel a whole lot more on the steamy side tomorrow afternoon. Storm Team 6 radar right now, things are all nice and quiet, but we'll keep an eye on any of those isolated storms that may pop up. Here's a look at TrueCast. As we go through the overnight, you can see it's going to be very isolated here. Most of us will not see any rainfall activity through the overnight hours with a mild low of 71. Some patchy fog going to be possible here as we go into your Sunday morning, and a lot more in the way of some dry time on Sunday. It means those temperatures are going to be quite a bit warmer, back to around 90 degrees for that afternoon high. And as we go into the afternoon and evening, there's about a 30% chance of a shower or thunderstorm. So most of us are not going to see any rain tomorrow, but here's TrueCast, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got the clouds around, fairly quiet. Then we start to see that complex of storms coming together by 6 o'clock in the evening, close to areas like Delphi, Logansport, and the Peru areas, moving through Kokomo, Hartford City by 8:30 in the evening, Muncie as well. This could come a little farther to the south, so we'll continue to track that for you. But by the time we get into the overnight, things are fairly quiet. We do have that marginal risk, though, over the northern half of the state again tomorrow, primarily for some gusty winds, possibly some hail in a couple of those. But again, that's all on the lower end of the scale. For all of us, we're going to be talking about the heat with high temperatures around 90 degrees and the heat index tomorrow afternoon into the middle 90s. And that heat's going to stick around for several days here as we go into the upcoming week. Highs around 90 on Monday and Tuesday before our system brings in some cooler air for the end of the week. Let's put it all together now in the 7-day planning forecast. Highs around 90 through Tuesday with small shower and storm chances. Better chance for rain comes our way on Wednesday. That'll be associated with a cold front, which will bring in some more pleasant air with highs in the lower 80s Thursday and Friday.
My eyes are on Tuesday because guess what? It's my birthday.
Weekend. Oh, it's your birthday. Weekend. Oh, happy birthday.
So I'm hoping to get in a pool day. Looks good.
It looks pretty good. Yeah, warm 90. And just an isolated shower.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle. Coming up next, the impact weather had in setting the stage for the next IndyCar Series race at Pocono. Plus, Dave First talks with Scott Dixon. And Victor Oladipo goes to camp and takes a few dozen kids with him. The Pacer star on why weekends like this are so important in his life and his career. The IndyCar Series is in Pennsylvania this weekend. Tomorrow's event at Pocono Raceway will be an important one in the championship. All of the leaders will start up front after weather washed out today's qualifying session. RTV6's sports director Dave First is at the track with more.
Aren't too many times where you do an interview with a driver indoors, but such is the case here in Pocono with rain earlier today, so qualifying's washed out. Maybe not such a bad thing.
Yeah, I think last year we had a pretty big upset, I guess, in qualifying as far as not getting it right. We bottomed the car really bad, and I don't even know where we started, kind of 12th or 14th or somewhere there. So at least now you kind of come back with one focus, and that's trying to make the race car better. It's nice to actually have a 2-hour session because you can kind of relax and go through the process opposed to, trying to bash everything out in a 30 or 45-minute session. So I'm looking forward to it.
Big win a couple of weeks ago. It feels like a month or two ago now at Mid-Ohio, but without that, you're not 62 points down. Maybe the championship's out of your reach, but here you go. With 4 races remaining, you're still very much a part of this thing.
Yeah, it definitely puts us kind of back in the hunt.
Yeah.
I think especially with Joseph's kind of late race excursion there too, gained us probably another 15 or 20 points. So it just shows you how quickly it can turn, and not just, for 4th place right now in the championship, but also second and, 1st and 2nd and 3rd. It's definitely made it a lot tighter. So it's what happens in the NTT IndyCar Series every year, man. It comes to crunch time. You get these crazy circumstances that, packs that field up and makes the last race super exciting. So, hopefully we can be there still with, Laguna.
Well, you got to feel pretty good. A place here, you've had some success at Pocono, obviously. So
yeah, we had we were on the podium last year with a 3rd. We've won here in the past. Honestly, our cars haven't been fantastic here the last couple of years, but we came with a very different approach, I think, that is applied to some other circuits this year. So hopefully that helps. Really, it's hard to comment on until we get on track and try and run it. So it's going to be good, though.
Hopefully one of these next couple hours will be needing these, though, out
it's
there.
coming out, man. I see it peeking out.
It never rains all that much at Pocono.
Got to get your Oakleys on. Yeah, why is everything so green here?
Here we go. Pocono tomorrow.
All right, Dave, thank you. Here's a look at the first 3 rows for Sunday's race. Points leader Joseph Newgarden up front with Alexander Rossi beside him. Simon Pagenaud and Dixon will start on the 2nd row. Will Power won the pole position last year. He'll start 5th tomorrow. Dave will have a conversation with the race winner for us Sunday on RTV6 News at 11. Pacers guard Victor Oladipo is back in Indiana this weekend and back on the court. He's helping the next generation of hoop stars work on their games. Oladipo hosting a basketball camp this weekend at Grand Park Fieldhouse in Westfield. More than 500 kids signed up, getting a chance to work on their fundamentals, also playing some 4-on-4 games. Plenty of competition as well. Oladipo working one-on-one with many of the groups. Vic talked to us today about what it means for him to help develop these young players.
I think the biggest thing, though, is I remember what it was like being a kid. And I remember having role models and heroes, and imagining what it would be like and what kind of interaction I would want to have if I met them. And that's the kind of the reaction and action that I put towards them. Because at the end of the day, I know what it means to them.
Our Brad Brown got a chance to talk with Victor about his summer, the new look Pacers roster, and more. Look for that Monday night here on RTV6. We'll be right back with a final check of your forecast.
Filet sandwich meal, only at Zaxby's.
Today, thousands of families are getting the opportunity to reunite and thank the hospital staff that helped their babies while they spent time in the NICU. The reunion was for staff from the Peyton Manning Children's Hospital and families who spent time there over the years. This reunion started in the basement of a St. Vincent nurses' home 21 years ago, and now today the event has grown to include thousands of families. Ashley and her son Wyatt McCartney have been coming since 2007. He was born at 26 weeks and was considered a micro-preemie. Now at 12 years old, he's an honor student, and his mother says it's important to celebrate him every year.
For me, it's amazing. I always remember every day what the feeling was of being in the NICU and being a parent of a baby there and seeing the other infants that were there, the other parents. So to be able to come out here and see all the kids from infancy up to 12 or however old they are, to be able to see what the nurses and the doctors are able to do for the kids and the parents is amazing.
And coming up tonight at 11, we'll talk to a doctor about what this event means to him. And Kyle, you can tell not very sunny at that event, but at least it wasn't raining.
Exactly. They were able to get that in. And tomorrow we're going to have a lot of dry time, too. It will be hotter with highs in the lower 90s, just that isolated storm chance this evening.
All right, Kyle, thank you. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you right back here tonight at 11.